Welcome to the Heart-Centered Entrepreneur Podcast. I want you to be rich. Yes, I want abundant financial success for your business. But I don't just care about your business making money. I care about you too. I want you to be rich in happiness, in the impact you make, in your relationships, and in how you give back. I'm Anna. I built my six-figure business as a side hustle while I was pregnant with my daughter in 2016. Now I've helped dozens of women do the same. I'm here to help you build a profitable, heart-centered, fully booked business with the latest tips on sales and visibility, with proven mindset hacks, and sneak peeks behind the scenes with what's working right now in the online space and in my business. Ready to make more money with heart? Let's go. Hi, friends. I've actually been looking forward to this all weekend, knowing this was happening on Monday, which is a chat with my good friend and client, Jenny Karlsson, who is a money coach for creative entrepreneurs and so much more. I'm going to let her introduce herself to you. Take it away.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm the founder of Financials for Creatives and the creator of the Money Compass deck. And I'm a money coach. And I take a very holistic approach to money, both the practical stuff, behavioral, emotional, and spiritual aspects to have a strong relationship with money.
Ugh, I love that so much. I don't know if I told you this, but I actually gifted your deck. I bought one for myself, but I also bought two for my two best friends here. And they just cannot stop raving about your deck.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
It's in good use. So we've been working together for a little while, but I kind of want to snapshot back to when we started working together and getting coached, because I think it's just an era that a lot of coaches need inspiration or hope for, which is just a season of like getting a kickstart in your coaching business. So why don't you share with us where you were at, maybe in the era of your business and life before you did get in coach?
My first entrepreneurial journey was as a pet photographer. And I transitioned into doing money coaching when I had left my full-time job and had a lot of women in my local network come up and ask how I had made that jump. And while I was doing photography, I felt like I was hiding a part of my brain who loves to make sense out of numbers. So in 2017, I decided to go all in on coaching, and I put the cameras on the shelf and started working with photographers and other creatives because that was kind of the main business model that I knew. And then it grew from there. A lot of things happened after 2017. I became a mother in 2020 during the pandemic, and had no real idea of what motherhood looked like after the birth. I'd had 2 miscarriages leading up to having my son. So I was so focused on just, getting to the finish line, so to speak, that when it was time for the birth, I was like, yeah, I'll be back in business 2 months later. But that didn't really happen. And so it was a much longer period of getting back into business mode and finding support and a daycare spot so that I could show up in my business again. So when I found Getting Coach, it was kind of on this precipice of feeling like the business was, coming back alive again, and I was hungry for more. But it was also, a lot of businesses were recovering from the pandemic. They may have had good revenue years and because of the stimulus checks, but then later was the impact where, those stimulus checks were spent and revenue went down, and a lot of business owners were struggling. So for me, joining Getting Coach was kind of a way to, see what additional skills I could learn to add to my toolkit in terms of, having sales conversations and getting the word out about my business and a little bit more seasoned in my business, and I had done a lot of research on who I was talking to, what their pain points were, how I could help them, but I needed to have more conversations. So that's kind of why I then joined Get and Coach, because I'd been listening to the podcast for quite a while, and I love your energy. It's like every Tuesday when your podcast comes out, I'm listening in the morning on my walk in nature. And it's like, if you need a mood booster, you listen to an episode of your podcast. So that's where I had found myself. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to explore this and see what your approach is to getting fully booked.
I love that so much. I'm so glad it can be your mood booster for me. So I'm glad I could be that for you. I love what you said about part of what drew you to getting coaches. Like you needed more tools, right? And I get that feedback from a lot of clients is like, they really enjoy the like trainings and the swipe files and stuff like that, which is so ironic, Jenny, because I feel like that is such an expertise for your work and your clients when you do the money work, right? Like you have the spreadsheets and that like you are a like resource queen. So it's true. Like, I think a lot of times we think like, okay, I could do this on my own, right? And it is about getting the coaching and the support. But I do think actual practical tools and swipe files and spreadsheets, like it's so true that those things do expedite our process.
Yes. And it helps to have the language from a sales perspective and how to have the conversations, how to engage and get the word out and, initiate more.
Were there any templates and or tools or trainings that stood out to you in specific?
I had never done the scholarship approach before. So just thinking through how to do that logistically and how to phrase it, but making it my own and learning the step-by-step process, how to do that was super helpful. And I mean, there are so many swipe files in there from before you have set something up to after you complete coaching to how to follow up to, renew and have those conversations. And it just helps to have the language.
I love that. I'm so glad. Okay. So once you decide, and it's so interesting too about like it being such a transitional point in your life, right? Pandemic, mother, like so many big transitions. And I think I hear a lot of women saying like, ugh, I'm going through too many transitions. It's not the time for support or more, but what helped you feel like it would be useful, even though you were balancing a lot of things?
It felt like I needed to try something new, to be generous with my time and to see what came out of that, to open myself up to have more conversations and see what magic would unfold as a result. And also, you being so practical, you have a tendency to also kind of light a fire behind our butt and to challenge us as clients to go outside of our comfort zone. So all of that felt very, positive, not necessarily in a hustle way, because I'm very anti-hustle, but in a very grounded, focused, an encouraging way. And you have a tendency to see like, okay, do this. And it kind of cuts through the noise.
I love that. I love what you said too about like, me being able to challenge you. And I just want to like, affirm you as a client too, especially because you're someone as a coach. And I think the best gift we can give to our clients is when we are doing our own work and you are someone that truly does your own work, is willing to be challenged. Like even, now in the mastermind, sometimes I'll be like, ooh, try this or that. And I'll be like, how is it going to, but you just always take it with you just are always willing to drop your ego and do the hard thing or be challenged. And I just really admire that about you, Jenny.
Thank you.
Maybe share with me what your favorite parts about the experience were or what some of the highlights were in your journey of being in the program.
I really thrive when I get to have conversations. And that's kind of the result of the program, because I didn't know how many applications I would get from doing the scholarship. And you early on in the process, I think I asked, like, what's a good number to shoot for? Because I didn't know. And you're like, well, 30 would be a good number. And I was like, okay, 30, let's go. And I wasn't really sure if I would be able to accomplish that. But you reminded throughout the process also how important it is to continue to show up and to keep nudging people to apply. And that's what I did. And in the end, I ended up having 30 applicants. And that was really encouraging to see that there was so much interest and need for this work. And then to have one-on-one conversations with all the applicants from all over the world. And conversations are very energy giving for me. So that was a wonderful result of the program. But from being inside the program, it was wonderful to not be alone and to have others at different stages in business, but everyone were in this program for one reason, to get new clients and to coach. So, because if you join a mastermind or something else, it might be everyone are slightly different what mission they have, but that's one of the strengths of your programs, Anna, that everyone come in, whether it's in Get and Coach or Sell with Heart, that we're all working towards the same main goal. We may do it differently and we're all doing it in different businesses, but we have that shared common ground, and that makes all of the conversations really focused on the coaching calls, because a question that someone asks, I'm going to learn from it and get ideas. So lots of good stuff in there.
Yeah, I just got lost listening to you for a second. It's so true, right? And I think like we forget entrepreneurship, and research shows us that we're the loneliest in society we are right now than we have ever been, which is so sad and so interesting when we're so connected. But I do think that's such a beauty of being in a program where it's pretty niched, where it's all women with similar hearts, similar missions, and working towards something bigger. And when you ride the ups and downs, like you said, like, am I really going to get 30 people to apply for me? And everyone listening to this, even if you've never met Jenny, you're probably like, well, duh, she will. Like, she's the kindest human ever, right? But in your head, it doesn't feel that way, right? In your head, not you, but like, you're like, I can get 30 people, who's going to apply to work with me, right? But I think when you have those companions, not just me, but other women in there with you, it really does help on a bad day, on a good day, just keep you consistent in your actions and putting you out there.
Yes. And it doesn't have to be hard work or difficult either. I mean, a lot of times I was laying on the couch, in the evening and sending DMs and being like, hey, you should apply for this. And, I try to take a farming approach to coaching and building a business that, it's not about, like there's the hunting versus farming mentality around coaching. And farming, you plant a lot of seeds and, not all of them grow into a crop, and some of them take longer than others. And that's the most important thing to remember. You nurture these relationships over time so that when it's the right moment, you can go and nudge them like I did and say, hey, I think this would be a really good fit for you. And that is what makes it like really rich. Like it makes connections globally, and it can still be really lonely to do the admin work and all of the nitty-gritty stuff, but the more you cultivate that community, the richer it feels.
Just yes. I so agree with you, right? Like I've never heard that analogy, but I love that idea of the farming and planting seeds. And it's so true, right? And I think with a method like this too, you get some immediate results, you sign some immediate clients, but also with those connections, you're planting seeds for the future. And I think for women that really actually like to coach and have a heart to really help people, it's just such a fun way to market.
Yes.
If you don't like to coach, I always say, like, if you don't actually like to coach and sit with women on Zoom, this probably is not the program for you, right?
Yes.
No judgment, but start a different business, sell candles or something, right?
100%. I mean, I feel really grateful that I love being on Zoom, and a lot of people got burnt out on Zoom during the pandemic. But as a coach, no, that was like still the way to connect with people and to make a difference in the world. So I agree 100%.
So good. Okay, so tell us a little bit about how many people bought from, did you do your cash flow intensive, or remind me what offer you really featured?
I featured a 3-month coaching container. Typically, I do 6 months of coaching, but I thought for a, new process, new everything kind of, that I was going to try and do a 3-month container. I was also offering cash flow intensives, which is like my little bite-sized offer. And as a result, I ended up basically selling 6 intensives, which also then led to one 6-month one-on-one client. So there was some conversion from the intensives that I sold as well. And then there was word of mouth. So while there was, let's see, I was writing it down to make sure I had the numbers.
Of course you did, because you're a numbers
year.
girl. Like, you're a numbers girl. We have the data.
Yeah. So there were, let's see, four scholarship applicants that bought the intensive. Then I landed another intensive client because of word of mouth. I was also, someone bought an intensive who had seen this process but didn't apply for it, but wanted to do the intensive. And it was kind of like the stars aligned as well in terms of the timing of it, because I had some podcast interviews that were being released at the same time. And I asked for people to then, share about that I was doing the scholarship giveaway. So that in turn led to a few more intensives and one-on-one work. So, there's like this whole ripple effect of when you do this.
Mm-hmm. I love that so much, that like some of the results came straight from it, but some of the results came outside of that, right? But really, yes, it was like you putting your energy in and saying, like, I'm really going to go in on this and do a fresh little kind of like a baby relaunch of my business and put myself out there, be generous with my time, hop on the phone. I mean, obviously I wasn't on those phone calls with those women, but like, obviously from even the Zoom session, if you're listening to this podcast interview, like, that you were showing up. Like, yes, that you were like probably going over a little bit in session, right? You're probably emailing them resources afterwards and giving them spreadsheets. And like, you're just someone that shows up 1,000%. And while, of course, in the program, I teach boundaries, I do think there's something to be said for a coach that's just on fire for her work. And Jenny, what I would know about you is you are just on fire for women getting organized in their budget and just feeling free around a topic that really holds so many people back in shame and guilt.
Absolutely. It's so important to have a safe space to talk about money, and whether it's how it's impacting your personal life or your business life. I mean, they're intertwined, and it's everyone needs that kind of safe space.
I love that so much. You were just unleashed to do your work. So of course, everyone that was on a call with you was like, of course I want to work with you, right? What would you say most, so from that little like wave of growth, like what most surprised you about that, I guess?
I would say that all of the majority of prospects that I talked to and that I converted were my ideal clients. And I tend to focus a lot on the money management piece. And that's what they showed up with. So that was a happy surprise. And I will also say that, summertime is a little bit tricky or especially last year, I was having a lot of mindset blocks around being able to show up in my business. I had I lost my voice for like a week, so I couldn't coach, and daycare was closing for, 3 or 4 weeks or so. And I'm like, how am I going to be able to do my purpose work? And because it's like there's this constant push-pull when you really want to do this work, and you run into those roadblocks. But it was great to be working with you then, Anna, because you see possibility. I'm someone who can see possibility, but sometimes it's hard to see possibilities in your own life. Like I'm great at seeing possibility for clients, but I need a coach who can see like, hey, you may be staring at a brick wall, but there's a way around it. And when I look back at that time, I closed some of my, biggest sales during that time. I was still able to make it work, show up for my clients, and close sales. And so it really pushed past my limiting beliefs of what I thought was possible because of the environmental circumstances. And, I think we can get so stuck in the nonsense that our brain tells us.
I love how much you show up as such a good client in coaching, right? Because I think you're right. Like what I admire about you, Jenny, is you have faced some huge obstacles, right? On multiple levels, but you are someone that is so resilient, so persistent, but also, again, willing to lean into support and willing to say, I need help, right? And it's so true that like, just as moms, right? Like, of course, school is closed and we get sick and like, it's just like almost laughable now, right?
Yes.
When it comes to support in the mastermind and support and getting coached, like, what would you say has been most helpful for you getting coaching in some while you were experiencing challenges and obstacles?
Just being able to have someone reflect back in what I'm saying and how that, how that sounds on the receiving end from like the way you were able to coach me through some of that. Or, as entrepreneurs, we have a bajillion different ideas. And one of the things I appreciate most about you, Anna, is you're like, let business be boring and focus on these 2 main services that you have. Like, you don't need to start a podcast or a membership or whatever is under the sun that sounds inspiring that day. Like, focus on the thing that you're really good at and like fill that up first and then do something else. And I'm someone who has to hear that a million times, like, because I start to become like a car that gets the engine revved up, but I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. And then you're like, hey, just take the foot off the gas a little bit, and then, you'll move forward with like one thing. So that's something that is always such a good component in your programs, like your direct support, but also to be surrounded by other business owners and how you've structured it in terms of allowing everyone to share their perspective so that it truly is a mastermind environment. And man, some of the, you magnetize really compassionate, smart women, and like there's so much wisdom and love in that group. So that's something that, is really special in your programs.
You're making me cry. It's true. Like when you were saying that, I was just thinking about the women and I was seeing their faces, and just, it is such an honor. I feel like business is hard, right? Putting yourself out there on social media, right? Like research shows us that people would rather, do a lot of things than public speak, basically. And so putting yourself on social media, putting your offer into the world, having a challenging client, like running a coaching business is not easy. I think it's easier than any other job in the world, but I don't think it's easy. And man, it is such a blessing to have good women in there with us, right?
Yes. And also to be in new groups, that we don't just stay in like our safe spaces with the people we know, but to that's also a way to push ourselves outside of the comfort zone, to suddenly be in a whole new group where you know no one. And at the end, they might be able to reflect things back to you, what they see, that it is so affirming, but also just can put a fresh light on who we are and what we do.
It's so true. I feel like when I started entrepreneurship, I do remember being like, not like stranger danger, but like, it's uncomfortable to like put yourself out there and meet new people and make new connections. But I think you're right. Like it really is so rewarding to have those new friendships, especially with other women that are doing the work, right?
Yes.
Other women that get it, like get the balance, they get that it's how frustrating it is when your kids get sick. They get how disappointing it is when you like put 7 hours into a reel and no one comments, right? Like just like, they're like, we just like get it.
Yes. And you remind me of something very, very important. And it's the first time that I've been in a group with a coach who is a mom and very focused on working with other moms who are business owners, and to have that purpose work in addition to mothering, but also who fully understands what it's like to have a little one, and the intricacies of that.
That is a very dignified way to say it. All the intricacies, right? It's just like, it's just wild to balance motherhood and balance business. It's just such a project, right?
It is.
That you do it so well. Okay, before we go, I of course want you to share your offers and stuff, but before I just felt the nudge to ask you, you're someone I personally admire for your strength and resilience and how you approach life with such courage and grounded energy and tenacity. And if there's anyone listening to this podcast that is in a chapter where they're facing some significant challenges in life or business, what is some advice or things that have helped you be able to balance life challenges while you're running your business?
That's an amazing question. And last year was a really challenging year in many ways. And being diagnosed with inflammatory breast cancer definitely put a stick in the wheel in terms of what life looked like after that. I chose to still show up in my business and to continue to serve my clients. I did it in a part-time way so that I would still have space to do chemotherapy and to rest after. And Anna, that's something that you model incredibly well in your own business. And, that you talk about a lot, how you structure your coaching days versus non-coaching. And that was something that I was trying to apply in my own business before I got diagnosed. And then it was kind of a blessing that I'd given my future self that space that I so needed. When you have a little one too, you also have to consider how you approach something so big like a cancer diagnosis, and to lighten it some. And in some ways it's a blessing to have a little one, because he only understands so much of how how serious that is. But also to make it something fun when you're going to lose all of your hair, but to go to the hairdresser and he gets to be part of it, and it gets to be, a fun memory instead of, something terrifying of like the hair falling out. So that's, I guess, one advice would be, think about how you can remain in control, even though basically everything is out of your control, and to always, always listen to your own intuition. If you think that something is wrong, I got a mammogram that said that everything was normal and to come back in a year, but I knew my body and that something was wrong. So I asked for more tests, and it was what I thought it was. And then things moved really quickly. If you have to go through health challenges, support is extremely important. So having more daycare time, for example, like having a mastermind or a group program like Anna's, to not be doing it alone, even if I can't move at the speed of others. Everyone moves at their own pace. So that's something to remember too. Like if you're an entrepreneur and you're hungry to grow your business and to get to a certain revenue level or income level, if something big happens in your life, you have to take it at your own speed. And that's one of the hardest things, but essential. It's also super important to ask for help, to open up, to be able to receive. It's really hard, whether it's, time or emotional support or money support during big challenges, but to dare to ask for help is really important. And it's how you get through it. You can't do big health challenges alone. It also really showcases whether you're working with the right clients during something like this, because you have to have really good boundaries, and you can see if they're willing to be adaptable, when, like, I've had to be extremely adaptable. And so boundaries can be flexible too. That sometimes I have to change things around because things pop up. And to then have clients who can reciprocate, but you also reciprocate if something then comes up and they need to change something. That has been really important too, that you're like, boundaries aren't necessarily set in stone. They can change with, the season you're in. So trying to think of, I could probably come up with a million more, but those are the big ones.
I love those so much. To your point too, about that last piece about, when we go through challenges, being able to flex our practice, right? I think we forget, like you said, like that we can do that we can, like, what are some of the accommodations or changes that you made to your practice to be able to honor what you needed in that season?
So initially I had 3 coaching days in the middle of the week, because my treatments were always on Fridays, and Mondays I was still recovering. And mom brain is one thing, but chemo brain is like mom brain on steroids, the brain fog and not being able to drive during some of it. But I recognized, like, you can't know some of these answers before you do it. So I recognized once I had started chemo that I couldn't even coach on Tuesdays because the pre-medications that you give are to manage nausea. And I felt like I've described it as a stick figure who is holding on to a cliff for dear life. And that's how I felt when I was on a Zoom call trying to focus and listen. And that's not fair to my body or to my client. So then I said, hey, Tuesday isn't really a great day right now. Can we move it to Wednesday or Thursday? And of course, we could move things around, but I had to ask for that too, instead of just push through it. The other thing I just want to add is one of the choices I made really early on was to not take on the language that often surrounds cancer, that it's a battle and it's a fight and, all those hard words. And like, we're so hard on ourselves all the time, but with something like that I'd never gone through before, that was not the time to be fighting my own body. I needed to heal and to be very loving and caring towards it. So whether you're working on your relationship with money or a health challenge, words matter. And we have to be compassionate towards ourselves in order to change.
Yes. I love that last statement. I loved all of it. But what you said about we have to use self-compassion to change. In your work with women, let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, I just like Anna, I'm just lost in Jenny's positive energy and story. Tell us a little bit about the work you do with women and money, and maybe some of your beliefs or thoughts around your approach too.
When I first got started, I went straight for the practical tools because I worked in cell biology and physiology at University of Pittsburgh. So I was looking at cells, live cells, and making movies of them, and then analyzing how far they traveled or what they did in response to treatment, those sorts of things. So very analytical. And so I went for, building a budget and things like that in my own journey to be able to quit my job. So then that's what I taught my clients too. But I recognized really early on that it was met with so much resistance. And when you work with money, the practical stuff is extremely important, but it's not what comes first. First, you have to look at what are the behaviors and emotions that come up around money. A lot of it is solidified in our childhood, and whether money was something positive or challenging in your family, that gets reflected in your relationship with money and what it looks like today. And in working with creatives, there's also, creatives are so internally motivated, but very conflicted about making money, charging for their work. So now, instead of going for the practical, I go for understanding what are the patterns that keep showing up over time, and how can we replace those patterns, whether they have come from your own lived experience or they've been inherited from your parents or grandparents. we look at how can we change them into something more empowering, and then identify the actions you can take to shift that. And that can be practical. It can also be using emotional tools, whether it's, to become more resilient with your emotions towards money, or tasks like opening up your PayPal account, or even approaching trying to start budgeting. It's loaded with emotions. So I have tools that I can teach that helps close some of these energy leaks that drain so much of the energy that almost makes it impossible to move forward. And basically, I look at all the stuff in the operating system so that we can install a new operating system. And then I have the tools that you need that may have, in the past resulted in wanting to just put the head in the sand. But now if you're starting to ask questions about how to do something, that's where I guide my clients so that they can do it in bite-sized steps and see that they can keep more money for themselves. They might not have to work as hard, and they can have a more sustainable business.
I love that so much. I have honestly, Jenny, in the online space, I've never seen someone quite with the approach that you have in your ability to really hold both sides so equally, right? I really see you as this like gentle, powerful lioness, right? Like you're able to really, like you said, like be like, okay, can you open up your PayPal? Okay, can we actually look at the numbers and create a spreadsheet? Like those things for women are so important. The more masculine side of like looking at our numbers, right? Crunching out stuff. But then the other side of like, you have a freaking, a woo-woo money deck, right? And so I just think like that is such the power that you offer the online space. And if you follow Jenny on Instagram, you'll know what I'm talking about too, but just really holding both those sides. And I think that's what we need as women. Like we need the practical, and then we need that mindset support too.
100%.
I love that. Okay. Tell us where people can follow you. If you have any free resources, how can women connect with you and or your work if they're more interested?
My website is financialsforcreatives.com, and I'm on Instagram at financialsforcreatives. And, if you go there, you can look at the link in the bio where I have links both to my money type quiz that was designed by the Money Coaching Institute, where you can learn more about the different archetypes that might be active in your relationship with money, and get a better picture of both the positive aspects in your relationship with money, but also the sabotage patterns that are currently present. You can also learn more about the Money Compass Deck at moneycompassdeck.com and send me a DM. That's where I love to hang out.
Thank you, Jenny, so much for giving us your time, your energy, your story. I'm just always so inspired and in awe of you and just grateful to be connected.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for you, Anna.
Thanks for hanging out today. Please hit that subscribe button so you can make sure to stay updated anytime a new episode drops. And I would love for you to join me in my free Facebook community. It's called The Heart-Centered Entrepreneur. We discuss the podcast episodes. I regularly go live and do free trainings. And you may even meet your newest biz bestie. So you can join at heartcenteredcommunity.com. It's absolutely free, and I cannot wait to see you in there.